Mr. Zurvan H. Marolia, the Senior Vice President of Godrej Boyce. He administers the entire manufacturing and distribution operations of Godrej Interio, which has a manufacturing footprint from Uttarakhand to Tamil Nadu. He spearheaded the development of a robust supply chain for achieving Godrej Interio's growth plan. Mr. Zurvan chairs the Manufacturing Council of Godrej Boyce, involving a group of prominent leaders in the manufacturing field. This council is dedicated to achieving manufacturing successes through a collaborative environment that promotes, facilitates, and advocates best-in-class manufacturing. He is also a member of the National Manufacturing Council of the Confederation of Indian Industry. Today, Mr. Zurvan will talk about appropriate automation. So, delegates, let's welcome Mr. Zurvan.
Good evening, everybody. Good evening, participants. Today, I would be speaking to you on one of my favorite topics, and this is a term that I have coined of appropriate automation, and you would have probably heard us during the panel discussion speak about it as well. So, what exactly is appropriate automation? I view appropriate automation as a fit-to-purpose automation. Let me explain. First and foremost, just a quick view of Godrej Boyce, a 125-year-old company, of which I have been privileged to spend the last 35 years. I have been with this organization, associated with this organization in various roles. We are a 1.5 billion group of 10 industries with 14,000 employees. And as you see here is our lovely campus in Mumbai, where a lot of the automation steps, the baby steps, we had taken over a decade ago. So let me quickly talk you through, what I see as the factors. So, those of us who have studied history would talk about BC and AD as before Christ and Anno Domini, which is after the birth of Christ. But nowadays we talk about BC and AC, which is before COVID and after COVID. So before COVID, we just had the challenges of a VUCA world, which is volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. And after that, what COVID gave us was something tangled, rapid, and paradoxical along with VUCA. So what exactly, if I were to generalize, because today we are looking at a spectrum of industries, it's not just a particular industry. What are the challenges faced? And if I were to put it very, very generally, it is the demand on the supply chain to have speed, agility, visibility, and resilience. And these are in a way addressed by automation. Automation is an enabler. We do automation if and only if it is something which helps us satisfy and delight our customers. So automation helps us build speed. So it speeds up complex processes. It frees up resources for more value-added activities. It gives us the agility to be able to change, because change is a constant and change is going to keep happening. So how do we build that agility into our system? It helps us streamline our processes and it enhances repeatability. Repeatability here is a key word in what automation would help us to streamline. It gives us visibility. It captures process data with authenticity. It enables data-driven decision-making. This is something which is part of the transformation process. What I have learned from my experience when working with the SMEs is initially there is a lot of family-run businesses which gradually have to then transform into more professionally run businesses into data-driven decision-making. In fact, this is something that we as an organization have been working with our supplier partners. We call them business partners. Now, for the last 14 years, we have taken them on this journey. And of course, to build resilience. So you de-skill the processes, thereby enhancing the customer experience, providing consistency and accuracy. And the resultant, of course, is to boost the ROI. Otherwise, why would you go into it? What is automation? And this is really a definition which I have put together. It's not something that has been picked off the net. I call it a technique for making a task, a process, or a system to operate in predefined conditions without manual intervention. So the decisions are to be actually a part of that system. What exactly is the approach to automation? There are various steps. First and foremost starts with what to automate, to identify processes that will give maximum benefit or impact. And then there is what we call the ECRS of automation, which I will talk about in the next slides. So to use the available expertise to simplify the process steps and to redesign the process. So this is what we call apply intelligence. This is what I'm going to be talking about today. There are other steps which we will not talk about, because since we are focusing on the baby steps and the startup and the approach to automation. So what exactly is it that we want to automate? Obvious thing is to go for the low-hanging fruits. So processes which are highly repetitive operations, high resource intensive processes, complex processes requiring high repeatability, and hazardous processes is another one, because bringing safety into it, of course, is a major factor, safety and sustainability. So I promised I'd speak about the ECRS process, which is before executing any automation, one must focus on the following basic things. Can we eliminate the operation? That is very important to look at. Can we combine operations in order to be able to then effectively find value in automation? Can we reduce the operation? And finally, how do we simplify it or take it offline so that it does not build into our overall cycle times and our costs? So simplify it and basically reduce that cycle time. So here's a very simple example of what we would call an example of ECRS. Take the case of, let's say, an eye bolt which has to be fitted with a thread, with a bolt which has got threads on both ends, and the time taken is 25 seconds. Using a thread on a single arm instead, we can reduce that time, let's say, to 20 seconds. To further simplify it, instead of using a nut which requires a nut runner or a spanner, can be used a wing nut which would simplify it further. So it would reduce the time further to 10 seconds. And then if we could use a spring-loaded latch, we would be able to actually eliminate the whole need for those various threads, etc., and move into the simplification and actually reduce the time taken to 4 seconds. So quickly, the steps. First and foremost is there has to be the big picture in mind, and it all starts with the customer. What do we view as the needs of the customer? What do we understand? It's not a question of what do we understand? And then there are basic steps like the discrete sensor, simple on-off operation, automation of a small operation within the process, then automation of a single station in a manufacturing setup, a holistic end-to-end process automation, then taking it beyond manufacturing to the entire supply chain, and to build an organization-wide automation roadmap. So this is the journey, but we have to be very mindful of the fact that no steps can be jumped. If we jump any of these steps, we are asking for trouble. We are going to end up investing in something which we haven't really got a grip on. So there is, to summarize what I said, the field level, the control level where you have the controllers, then you have the supervisory level with the SCADA systems, planning. So you take it beyond manufacturing now into the planning and supply, and finally build that into the ERP and the management level of the organization. So quickly, what are the do's and don'ts of automation, as I would like to put it? Automation is a double-edged sword, and it has to be used very carefully, because if it is not, we could end up, instead of helping us cut the cost, it could cut us. Automation is a means to an end and not the end in itself. The customer is what our entire focus is on. Each enterprise has different automation needs. Never copy automation blindly. And there is this story which I would just quickly like to touch upon, where a company that was manufacturing soaps found, for example, that an occasional soap wrapper box would go through without the soap inside, and this could lead to a lot of trouble with the customer. After various deliberations, one simple automation found was to put a fan near the conveyor so that an empty box would just get blown off. That's the kind of automation. Simplicity is what has to be thought of. So choose your automation appropriately. And finally, like Mr. Nath did, I too would like to stop and end on a lighter note, which I came across this, which says, if your doctor, and in this case, an automation consultant, prescribes you medication without first asking you your diet, your sleep, your exercise routine, water consumption, whether you have any structural issues, stress in your life, then you don't have a doctor, you have a drug dealer. So I leave you with this thought. Thank you.